The class is about to start. 40 children sit on a concrete floor. A teacher walks the rows. He pats pockets. He looks for food. He finds 5 kernels of grain on a little girl. He snaps. He drags her to the front of the room. He makes her kneel. A wooden stick comes down on her head. Again. 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 She collapses. Her classmates do not scream. Later that night, she dies. This scene does not come from a dystopian novel. It comes from testimony about Camp 14, one of North Korea's political prison camps. A place where childhood ends in hunger, and a single scrape of stolen grain can be punished with death. These are the places the regime calls total control zones. Outside the barbed wire, the world rarely hears about them. Inside, life is measured in quotas and scars. Camp 14 sits inland, away from prying eyes. It is threaded with mines, fields, factories, barracks, guard posts and watchtowers. Satellite images show rail spurs, roads, and activity across a landscape almost 3 times the size of Manhattan. What you see from space is production, coal wagons, fields, new roofs, movement of trucks. What you do not see from space are faces. For years, North Korea denied the camps existed. Then survivors began to speak. Eyewitness accounts, names, dates, places. Investigators combined those stories with satellite imagery and built a map of the Gulag system. Human rights groups, the U.S. State Department, and the UN all documented the same basic pattern: forced labor, public executions, starvation, and a system designed to break families across generations. Not everyone who ends up inside committed a crime. Sometimes a father's accusation or a rumor is enough. North Korea's policy of guilt by association means guilt can reach 3 generations: a factory manager, a professor, a baker, their children, their grandchildren, all branded as unredeemable, sent not to prisons that punish and release, but to camps that control forever. One of the best-known witnesses is Shin Dong-hyuk. He became a symbol. He wrote a book that gripped the world. He said he was born inside Camp 14. He told how he watched parents executed, how he crawled under electrified fences, and ran across a frozen field until he reached China. His story helped focus international attention on atrocities that had long been whispered about. But the record is complicated. In 2015, Shin revised parts of his account. He said some memories had been altered by trauma and fear. Some events he originally placed at Camp 14, like the execution of his mother and brother, he later said happened at Camp 18. Scholars, journalists, and human rights groups debated the changes. They asked, does this revision discredit everything? The answer from multiple investigations was blunt: no. Even allowing for errors, and the terrible pressure on witnesses, satellite imagery and scores of other testimonies independently confirm the existence and brutality of the camps. Let's step into that world, as best we can from the outside. Close your eyes, and picture a landscape stitched with fences, barbed wire, watchtowers, guard posts. A river runs like a seam through the valley. Villages of low wooden barracks sit in the hollows. To get from one end of Camp 14 to the other, you pass mines and fields. You pass a mine entrance where men with hollow cheeks file down into the dark. They do the work the state needs: coal for heat, ore for factories, rice from fields that barely feed them. Children are not spared. From morning to night they are on quotas. They learn lessons of obedience from guards who double as teachers. They memorize the rules that govern survival. Report a friend who plans to escape or be shot. Do not steal food. Every infraction is punishable by reduction of rations, brutal beatings, even death. Work comes first. School comes as indoctrination. Hunger comes always. The food is a single staple: corn porridge, salted cabbage, whatever the ration allows. Protein is rare. People risk punishment to catch rats. Mothers hide morsels for their children. If caught, the punishment is severe. Public executions are not uncommon. Witnesses report people shot beside the river. Doctors are not allowed to treat people who are political prisoners in any normal sense. Illness is a sentence. Hear this. The system is designed to crush hope. It is architecture and policy working together. Barracks face each other. Lights blink on patrol routes. Electric fences hum at night. The guards know the route of every prisoner. They know the faces of every child. They know who speaks out and who is silent. And there is no parole. In total control zones, release is rare. Death or lifelong servitude are the expected outcomes. Among those who survived and spoke was a man named Kim. He had been a high-ranking official before his family was accused of crimes. He remembers the day he was taken, the raid in the night, the van that carried him away. He remembers the abrupt cessation of civil life, the chauffeur replaced with a shovel, the office replaced by a tunnel. At Camp 14 he worked in mines. He watched men die of exhaustion and accidents. He saw guards beat prisoners until they passed out. Once, beaten nearly to death, he tried to end his life by pulling an elevator's safety pin. It fell, and he survived. That survival only brought more days of labor. Escape is possible, but it is designed to be nearly impossible. You face watchtowers, mines, patrols, rivers, mountains, and a state prepared to shoot. Those who have fled tell of frozen nights, furtive crossings of the border, bribed truck drivers, months moving across China under assumed identities, and years before reaching a safe country. Some die on the run. Some are caught and returned. Some lose their families while trying. Those who make it become witnesses. They carry stories that are hard to hear and harder to verify, and equally hard to ignore. Shin's escape is cinematic in its cruelty. He described crawling under electrified wires. He described clambering over the body of the man who had died on the fence. He described running until his legs gave out, collapsing in a field, and then disappearing across a river into China. When his account first appeared, reporters and readers were stunned and mobilized. The world paid attention. Then came the revisions. Shin said he had been coached and pressured. He said trauma had warped memory. He clarified that some events occurred in Camp 18 and not Camp 14. Journalists, historians, and human rights advocates parsed his every sentence. Some critics used the revisions to attack the whole body of defector testimony. Many human rights groups pushed back, pointing out that the camps themselves are well documented by other witnesses and imagery, and that the retractions do not erase widespread evidence of abuse. Why does any of this matter? Because evidence on the ground, satellite photos, consistent testimony from dozens of different defectors, UN inquiries, and NGO reports paint a common picture. Camp 14 is not an isolated story. It is part of a system. Councils of experts estimate tens of thousands to over 100,000 people have been held in political camps across the decades. Estimates vary because the DPRK hides everything, but the scope is catastrophic. Let us return to the human frame. Imagine a child not older than 7, trudging to a coalface at dawn, hands raw from shoveling, lips cracked, teeth falling out from malnutrition. That child learns early that survival is private and cheap. That child learns to inform on others to gain small rewards. That child learns fear. That child learns to mistrust. That child learns to live inside the camp's rules. At school, the teacher is a guard. He drills loyalty above learning. He teaches obedience. One scout sees another whisper a plan. The rules require reporting. The betrayer becomes the condemned. The line between prisoner and informant blurs. The regime's goal is not only labor, it is to erase social bonds that might allow resistance. It is to make everyone complicit in surveillance. That is part of the cruelty. Outside the gates, human rights advocates push for accountability. They publish satellite studies. They interview survivors in safe shelters. They present detailed maps to the UN. They lobby foreign governments to press Pyongyang. They do this because silence is complicity. They do it because each testimonial is a human life that demands attention. And then there's the moral complexity of testimony itself. Trauma shapes memory. People alter stories to reduce shame, to survive, to cope. Coaching is a risk in every testimony from closed societies, where the stakes are high. Journalists and historians must balance skepticism with urgency. We must verify, but also listen. The existence of error in one witness does not mean the entire truth is false. It means we must be diligent. Shin's revisions did not erase the reports of executions, forced labor, or the structural design of the camps. Satellite images show active infrastructure. HRNK and others documented maintenance and construction across Camp 14 over decades. Government reports and the UN Commission of Inquiry concluded that crimes against humanity have occurred. Those conclusions rest on thousands of witness statements and corroborating evidence. Escape, when it happens, reshapes a life. For those who make it, freedom is not a single moment. It is years of adaptation. Many suffer from survivor's guilt. Many struggle to speak. Many do so anyway because silence lets horrors continue. They testify before parliaments, courts, and commissions. They risk their own safety to speak for those who cannot. What can viewers do when faced with such stories? Listen. Read the original reports. Support NGOs that document abuses. Pressure policymakers to keep human rights issues on diplomatic agendas. Recognize the difference between a single witness's correction and the broader archive of evidence. Demand accountability where there is credible proof. These camps did not appear overnight, and their dismantling, if it ever happens, will require sustained international focus. We close where we began. Remember the child struck for 5 kernels. Remember the teacher who beat without mercy. Remember the prison that turns children into informants and workers into ghosts. It is easy to look away. It is harder to hold the facts and act. The truth of Camp 14 is not the property of one man's memory alone. It is a chorus of many voices, and a body of evidence from space and from people who survived. This is a system we can see and document. This is a cruelty we cannot pretend does not exist. If you want to dig deeper, start with the satellite analyses by HRNK, read the UN Commission of Inquiry on Human Rights in North Korea, and look at the State Department's country reports. Read survivor testimony, including the original accounts and the later clarifications. Understand trauma. Understand verification. Most of all, keep asking questions. The camp walls are thick, the fences are high, the world far away. But the truth leaks out, one witness at a time. And when it does, it demands to be heard.